Right, so today I'm just going to start off just talking a bit about, in fact I'll just do some questions and answers first of all, so you know, if anyone's got any questions surrounding anything to do with like addiction or recovery or even like mental health, because I believe that they are very much two sides of the same coin. You know, I'm happy to answer. Obviously, please don't take my answers as gospel as to what they are. They're just my opinions and my views, and obviously what's helped me through. You know, so yeah, just feel free to start asking some questions. Okay, so 0% alcohol drinks, so alcohol free. For me, I've heard, you know, good and bad from people in different things. I don't see a problem with them. The reason I don't see a problem with them is my addiction and my reactions were surrounded to an addiction and an allergic reaction to alcohol. So if I have a drink that contains alcohol, what happens is my body creates an allergic reaction with the alcohol, which creates a craving inside me. That craving then makes me feel that I need to have another drink, and the only way to cure the craving is to have another drink. Unfortunately, what actually happens is when I have another drink, it creates a bigger reaction inside me, so that then I continue to want even more to drink and more to drink. So I see alcohol-free drinks as a win-win for me. You know, I'm not addicted to the taste of beers or things like that. I was addicted to the alcohol, the allergic reaction that happened with it. So for me, that was the awkward part for me, was just real. At first I was a bit sceptical about whether it would be right to do. You know, some people said it was right, some people said it was wrong, but when I had the actual illness explained to me, I realised that there is nothing in that drink that creates the allergic reaction for me, so I managed to carry on with them. I've had a few, I drink them, you know, but the difference between 0% and a proper alcohol drink is I can put it down. You know, I can decide that, do you know what, I'm not going to have another one. I'm going to have a glass of Coke, or I'm going to have something else, or I'm going to have a glass, whatever, you know. Whereas if that was an alcohol drink, I wouldn't be able to. Okay, Caroline, so tell my story. Okay, started drinking at around about the age of 12. Mum and Dad separated. Hi, Michael. Just literally just continued throughout drinking, progressing onto your usual Class B, Class A. At the age of 15, I was flat out on Class A's as well. Cheers, mate. Hi, Clive. Just continued to the point of, you know, got myself involved in selling and things like that, you know, which I'm not proud of. Put myself through a real bad life, but the thing for me was, you know, I could never ever give up alcohol. I could give up crack, I could give up anything, but I couldn't give up alcohol. Tried many times. I went to AA for my wife. You know, my wife used to say to me, "Will, you need to stop, it's me or the drink." Many times I chose to drink over her, and do you know what? I'm a lucky man, because, you know, she stayed, and I was very lucky. I know a lot of people don't end up having that support. Till it got to one point where there was one day she found out that I'd been flirting with other people behind her back, not for the first time, but it got too much, to the point that, you know, she'd had enough. She had mental health illnesses, which, you know, was brought on an awful lot by my actions, my selfish, self-seeking ways, always worrying about myself. You know, I couldn't even speak to a female without having self-seeking ways and thinking, you know, oh yeah, what's that about, you know? And it was, for me, I didn't see it as a problem. I always thought, you know, I'm not being flirty, I'm just being friendly, which was absolute bullshit. Really, really was, you know, to the point that I was... Hello, Mason. I just thought, you know, that was how things should be, and I didn't realise that it was all part of the actual... of the malady, as they call it, a part of the actual addiction and the way of life. My selfish, self-seeking ways. And then my wife left me, she took my kids... and I absolutely destroyed myself. I literally just smashed the shit out of myself for 3 days. Went to the pub, drunk so much, just got myself... I don't remember leaving the pub, never higher. Don't remember leaving, don't remember getting home, but it went on for 3 days. Then I spoke to one of my friends from school who had been in AA for 15 years. And he said to me, go to a meeting, mate, and see what you think. Don't go there and think, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. No, I'm not an alcoholic. Just go there with an open mind and listen to what people say. And, you know, don't listen for differences. You need to listen to see if there's anything that you can identify with, you know, so anything that you can see similarities. Remember walking into my first meeting, and it was in a church, obviously. That was... Hi, Gareth. Yeah, that was for me, was, you know, it was walking into the actual meeting with it being in a church was quite an awkward thing, you know. I wasn't into spiritual, wasn't into any kind of God, none of that type of thing. So for me, it was, where do I go from here? I walked in the church, I walked out the church, I walked back in the church, I walked back out, and then I walked back in again. I thought, right, sorry, I've got to, you know, I'm here, what else can I do? I walked into a room and there was this fella in there. He was just sitting at the tables, and I spoke to him, and he said to me, is it your first meeting? I was like, yeah, it was. And I was shaking so bad. I felt so ill. And every single person that came into the room, he introduced me to, told them that it was my first meeting. And he was fantastic, you know. And then I remember this forever, you know. I'm sitting there listening to everyone doing their shares. And they're all talking about how they locked themselves in their room in the dark, drinking bottles of vodka, crashing their cars, losing their jobs, losing their houses. And I'm thinking, I haven't done any of this. You know, this ain't me. This is too extreme. But it wasn't, you know. I spoke to someone after the meeting, and they said to me, what you're suffering, mate, is the yets. You know, you haven't done this yet. You haven't done that yet. You haven't done this yet. You know, and didn't think nothing of it. Then it come round and they started doing that. They like to celebrate with chip coins, and I remember them saying, literally that they gave out chip coins to celebrate sobriety, and it was just literally, they said anyone who was celebrating 24 hours, and for me, I didn't think nothing of it. And this old boy next to me gave me an elbow in the ribs and said, that's you. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. And everyone got up cheering, clapping, and I'm thinking, do you know, what is wrong with these people? You know, how can they all be so happy that they haven't had a drink? You know, what? Just couldn't understand. I couldn't grasp that fact. Literally couldn't grasp it. I left the meeting, went to the shop, got a beer, continued the way that I was going. That was it, you know, because where I was going wrong was I was trying to get sober for my wife. My wife wanted me to get sober, not me. You know, and I wanted to get sober for her. But little did I know that at that time I was doing it all wrong. You can't do this. You can't get clean. You can't get sober. You can't get well for someone else. It has to be for yourself. You know, even if you're at your lowest and you're losing your children or whatever, you can't do it to get your children back. You can't do it to make someone love you. You can't do it to make people think you're a better person. You have to want to do it for yourself. Didn't work for me. Continued drinking, continued going, till I got to a point 110 days ago, ended up arguing with my wife over the most pathetic thing you could ever think of, to the point that my wife was so scared. She went to leave me. I blocked her car in, and basically only way to put it was kept her hostage. You know, she couldn't literally get away. She was in the car, she was petrified. And I was there and she wouldn't let me in the car. I was screaming. She was screaming at me, saying, just let me go. And I just didn't know what was going on. You know, and I thought, I know, what I'll do is I'll open the window. So I went and got a screwdriver and I levered the window. The window exploded. Straight away I've opened the door, tried to speak to her. My wife was mortified. The police were called. I took myself for a walk down the other end of the estate so that my children didn't have to see me be arrested. I was then arrested for criminal damage and causing an affray. Put me in the cells. They interviewed me, and then when they released me, I got my phone back, and I was given my bail conditions. My bail conditions were I weren't allowed to contact my wife. I weren't allowed to return to my family home. I weren't allowed. I weren't even allowed in the street where we park our cars. Which, you know, for me, obviously, I've been there with my wife with her mental health and that as well, and, you know, trying to help her with the kids. Not being able to be there was quite a drain for me. You know, so contacting her was very, very hard not to be able to do it. Luckily, all of the charges have now been dropped, but what happened was, after I got released, I actually contacted a man from AA, and he come and met me. I was still in my police station issue jogging bottoms. Didn't even have a t-shirt on, literally. He come and met me, took me to Starbucks. We went to Starbucks, then I went and bought some clothes with him, helped me out, got me a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. And he sat down and he explained to me about the way that the illness works, as I explained earlier on about the allergic reaction and the cravings that it creates. When he explained that to me, I looked at things from a very, very different way from that moment on. He added me into some WhatsApp groups so that I had a support network. Now, I'd never had a support network before, because every time I used to go to any kind of meetings or anything, they used to say, get a sponsor, do your prayer and meditation. The clothes that I was wearing when I got arrested was I had a pair of shorts, but I believe they had a bit like blood on them because of the fact, no, they was in a bag. They given back to me in a bag, but where the police had wrestled me to the ground, they'd cut my elbow a bit, and they did have some blood marks on them. So I left them in the bag and carried on in the lovely jogging bottoms that they give you. Where was I? Right, so yeah, the t-shirt that I actually got, it was it's from like a mixed martial arts brand, and it's called Tap Out. Didn't even think nothing of it, just walked in the shop, just picked up the first t-shirt, just grabbing something, and it was Tap Out. Well, Tap Out means to surrender, which is exactly where I'd come to in my life. I needed to surrender to a power greater than myself because my life was unmanageable. I'd lost everything, you know. So like I say, he put me into these WhatsApp groups, and I just basically just typed up a message just explaining that I'd just been released from the station, that I'd lost everything, just seeing if anyone wanted to chat. And this fella messaged me and said, can I give you a call? I was like, yeah, of course, no worries. So he gave me a phone call. That phone call, I believe, was probably one of the biggest phone calls of my recovery, because that man arranged to meet me. We went again to Starbucks. And this fella turned out to be the person that's been my sponsor. Absolute fantastic, you know, literally the similarities and everything that me and this bloke had, it was just unbelievable. You would never have been able to imagine it. Right down through, I mean, even his missus was called Donna. You know, it was literally with the same age, both drive the same types of cars, everything. It was literally. And he said to me, right, we're going to start doing, you know, if you want to start doing this. And I asked him to be my sponsor. I couldn't find anyone to be a sponsor for me when I was in AA, because for me, AA was I love it. Don't get me wrong, and I would never ever put it down. But for me, I just really struggled because where I was with my life, I couldn't find anyone that I actually related to. However, when I met my sponsor, he was just going away on a family holiday for a few days, and he said to me, "Oh, there's a CA meeting." For those of you who don't know what CA is, it's Cocaine Anonymous. He said to me, "There's a CA meeting on a Saturday. Did I want to go to it? Because it just gives a different." They still work the exact same 12-step recovery. They use the same book as AA. It's just for cocaine and all other mind-altering substances. So covers alcohol as well, because alcohol is a mind-altering substance, but in liquid form. I've gone there, and literally, the minute I walked into this meeting, I felt at home. You know, I literally just it was just a different feeling for me. You know, I literally walked in there. I'm not really a cuddly person, but these blokes were getting up, giving you a hug and things like that. Yes, Donna Anderson is my wife, yeah. My darling. Yeah, so for me it was very, very different going into a room of CA, and then after I asked my sponsor to become my sponsor, he started to work with me, and you know, going through the steps, it was an emotional time, you know, doing things like your resentments, you know, on step 4 and things like that, working out my resentments and things like that, sitting down, realised that the majority of my resentments was to myself. You know, I was resentful of myself, my fears. I had fears that I didn't even think about, you know. No worries, Michael. You know, literally just going through all my different parts of my steps, and, you know, for me, there were so many things that people say, you know, that step 12 is, it says, having had a spiritual awakening. Well, one thing that I say to people, and I cannot, you know, for me to be sitting here and saying this, is if you actually give the steps and give your recovery as much effort as you give drinking or using whilst you're in active addiction, you will have a spiritual awakening. You will recover. I was a complete non-believer in any kind of higher power, anything like that at all. Even my missus used to go when she wanted to go to one of these like medium things, and go. I used to try and talk her around about, tell her how it was all set up, how it was all open questions, you know, because I was so close-minded to everything like that. But, you know, some of the things that happened that started to wake me up a bit. My sponsor said to me he needed me to start doing prayer and meditation, and I was like, oh no, here we go. This is the part I was afraid of. I had to get down on my hands and knees. I got down on my knees and I prayed for the first time. And next to me I had a full-length mirror. And I looked in that full-length mirror and I pretty much cried my eyes out. You know, that was me, and the realisation of what has the world come to, that I'm having to sit here on my knees praying to a God that I don't even know exists. You know, and I said that I was struggling with it. I went into the WhatsApp group, said about struggling with it, and someone said, "Yeah, look, if you're struggling with like things, let's get you on a meeting," you know. And they sent me some Zoom details for a meeting in Scotland. They said it's just different topics day by day. Everything changes. I've gone on this meeting, and this was, I believe, one of my first spiritual awakenings. So I've gone on this meeting. I'm in Milton Keynes. This meeting's in Scotland. So I've gone on this Zoom meeting, and the topic was prayer and meditation. And I'm literally sat there, and I am thinking to myself, how the hell have I ended up in a meeting about prayer and meditation when that is the one thing I'm really struggling with? And do you know what? That meeting was fantastic. it was an emotional meeting for me because it really, really did start to open my eyes up, and I believe that was possibly part of the turn of the start of the real recovery for me. Then I sat there. Me and my wife were sat there one day. We was just talking, and my daughter decided to tell us that there was a horse running that day called Alcohol Free. My wife decided to put a bet on it. It really didn't have a hope in hell of winning, to be fair. If I wasn't in recovery, we definitely wouldn't have picked it to have any bet on. But it did absolutely romp home, and it won by miles. Again, you know, my wife sitting there in absolute tears, and I'm like, right, why are you crying? And she said, that's a sign you can do this. And I was like, wow, okay. And you know what, I started thinking, do you know what, maybe she's right. You know, and I kept going to my CA meetings, kept doing what I needed to do, you know, kept working with my sponsor, who I'm very, very grateful that I met. And, you know, I kept doing my prayer and meditation, and then when it come down to making amends, so going on to my step 8, you know, I had to make amends, you know, so I messaged a few people to try and make amends. Some people replied, some people didn't. Obviously my in-laws weren't all the most welcoming to be expected, you know, because to be honest, if anyone had treated my daughter the way that I treated Donna, I wouldn't be welcoming them with them, you know, and I realised that, you know, at the end of the day, it's all my own doing. So, yes, Donna, I am a wanker. So, sorry about that. So what then happened after that was, I spoke to my sponsor about it and explained that you know, that my amends weren't being accepted, and he said, listen, at the end of the day, God grant you the serenity to accept the things you cannot change, Will. You can't change their feelings about you, but what you can do is change your actions. You know, think about yourself, don't react, look at what you can do compared to what they do, and just, you know, keep your side of the street clean. And that's what I've learnt now, you know. For me, I try not to act before I take that time and you know, and quite often ask for a bit of guidance. And that time of taking that little bit of time out and getting that bit of guidance in my head, even if it's just looking up and, you know, God, give me some strength. It's that 5 seconds that stops you having a flash reaction, and that flash reaction is usually a reaction of rage. How you doing, Steve? You all right, mate? Yeah, so it was very, very strange for me, was going through all of this different signs of recovery and things, but then what happened was my sponsor said, right, here you go, you're struggling with your amends. What I want you to do is I want you to put your mother-in-law and your father-in-law and your other-in-laws into your prayers. And I'm thinking, are you for real, mate? This, you know, come on. So I thought, you know what? I've done what he's asked me all along. I'm going to continue to do what he's asked me. So I get up in the morning to do my morning prayers. Kid had gone to school, so I got down on my knees and I prayed for a sign that there was going to be some normality would come eventually from between me and my in-laws. About 20 minutes later, I ended up with a message from my sister-in-law, just saying, just wanted to see how your recovery was. I thought, okay, wicked, yeah, that's fine. But that one weren't too bad because I did speak to her anyway. And then a message from one of Donna's cousins, who Donna doesn't speak to that often herself, really. But then the part that was really, really, really freaky was Donna come down the stairs and said to me, I've just had a message from her stepdad, Dad Steve. And she said, he's just messaged me saying that soon, in a couple of weeks, he wants to meet up with you for a coffee to get things ironed out and get some normality back. and I don't mind admitting it. Well, I thought I was fearless, but that shook me up. You know, I have literally sat there and prayed for a sign that there's going to be some kind of things be all right. And this man replied to me, and he hadn't spoken to Donna about me for 2 months. And that day, just after I prayed, he decided to message. And I thought, wow, this is really, really, really serious, you know. And that, for me, was a massive spiritual awakening. That made me realise, you know, these prayers, I'm not going to say if you pray for everything, everything comes true. You know, because it doesn't. Because at the end of the day, if that would be the case, I'd be absolutely minted. I'm joking, I'm not that materialistic. But for me, it's... Do you know what? I pray for guidance to get me through the day, to help me, you know, get strength for the children, how they deal with things, guidance for things that come my way. And do you know what? I know that if I do that, I do get a strength from inside, and I get an unbelievable amount of courage that I probably wouldn't have had before. I always thought I had courage, but I realised it's very much Dutch courage from the drink. You know, and then just moving along and like carried on doing my step work and everything. And I mean, I'm a keen golfer. I ended up that my father-in-law, I'd done another prayer because I hadn't heard anything from him for a little while. So I've done another prayer again, asking just for a sign that there is going to be some kind of normality. And later that day again, Donna was on the phone to him, and he's turned around and said he wants to meet up for a coffee next week, and then he wants us to book up and go and play golf like we used to do before all this happened. And do you know what? I'm sitting there, and you know, people will say to me, do you know what? It all sounds like too much, you know. And I can understand people think that it's too much, because do you know what? 6 months ago, I would have said, what a load of old bull. But I am living proof, and I believe 100% that I don't know what God is. I don't know who God is. For all I know, God could be anything. You know, but what I do know is there is definitely something there that I am praying to that is, first of all, more than anything, keeping me sober and help, because I couldn't do it myself. I tried. Many times I tried. I went through God knows how many times of, oh, I can just cut down. You know, I can just drink when the football's on. Or I'll just drink every other day. Or I'll only drink at weekends. Or I'll change my drink. I'll only drink this. I'll drink that. And literally, I don't know. You know, I couldn't do it. There was no way I could physically possibly do it. And that was the biggest part for me, was realising that I needed a power greater than myself. And once I realised that, it was a real thing for me. Then what happened was my local meeting, you know, I was taking my time going through my steps. I wasn't rushing it, you know, because I wanted to really grasp it. But then what happened was my local meeting decided to change the way it was running. It, instead of being just like a topic meeting where everyone spoke, they decided... one second, will do. They decided that they wanted to change it and actually start doing chairs. And a good friend of mine asked me how close I was to being through my steps. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to get my steps done because I want to do this chair. I want to be able to start helping other people. And do you know what, for me, the most important part of my recovery on a daily basis now is helping other people. Because do you know what, if I'm sat there and I'm struggling, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, anyone that's a newcomer into recovery, they don't realise just how much they're helping other people by reaching out, because it gives people the opportunity to get out of self mode and stop thinking about themselves and be able to do what's the important part, you know, and carry the message on to other people that are struggling. And, you know, it's massive. Really, really is. Well, I'll accept your request for you quickly. Just waiting for that to connect. So yeah, you know, another thing that's really, really helped me has been massive. I never ever thought, anyone who knows me will tell you this. I absolutely despised this app. I didn't want nothing to do with it. I couldn't handle it. I hated it. My wife loved it. It helped her through a lot of times throughout, you know, through lockdown and things like that, doing these silly videos. Yeah, so it was a weird thing for me. Then all of a sudden, I don't know how I even ended up on it. I don't know what happened. I don't even know how it all came about, but I ended up with a TikTok account. And I've seen some people doing recovery videos, just sharing, like, doing little lip syncs to songs, like things like Dareem, Things Can Only Get Better, and, you know, sharing how far they've come with their journey and things like that. And I thought, you know what, this is good. I want some of this. You know, they all seem so happy. And I became so present as a parent with my kids, you know, being involved, doing things with my kids. And for me, it was like, wow, all of a sudden I've had this real awakening, not just a spiritual awakening, but a parental awakening, you know. My little girl, my eldest daughter, she very, very much kept my secret for me about my drinking, kept it away from her mum and everything, you know, which was real bad, because it created an issue between them, an issue that I would never have wanted to actually do. But she felt that she could. But the issue with it was, it was real strange, because it was like she had a secret over me, because she knew that she was keeping my secret from my wife about me drinking all the time. So anytime that she needed telling off, I didn't want to tell her off. I'd say, it's all right, I'll deal with her when we get out. And then I'd take my daughter out and I'd be like, look, you've got to sort it out. You can't be like that. You know, you can't do this. You've got to treat your mum a bit better and all this. And then I'd buy her something just to shut her up, because I was having a beer. So then I ended up that instead of being a parent, I became a friend. Well, that's probably the harder part of it now, is we're all having to relearn these actions. So now my daughter's not my biggest fan, because I'm being a parent first of all. The 12 steps for me was absolute fantastic. It really was. You know, I learned so much going through the 12 steps with my sponsor. I don't think I would have made it. In fact, I know I wouldn't have. You know, but you've got to put the work in. You know, if you don't put the work in, don't expect to get clean or sober. You know, one of the best pictures I've ever seen, it says that the elevator to sobriety is broken, use the steps. But you have to work for them. You know, that's the whole point. You can't expect to wake up in the morning and that you're going to get sober without doing anything about it. You've got to work for it yourself. And genuinely, you know, if you think about how much you put into, when you're in active addiction, you think about how much you put into taking your first line, pipe, fix, drink, anything like that. Whatever amount of effort you would put into that, if you put that same amount of effort into not doing it, it will work. And that is one thing that you've just got to have faith in. You've just got to believe. And if you believe and you put yourself in that belief, and you know that you realise that you are powerless, then that's, you know, that works 100%. You know, anyone that is new, 100%, I urge everyone, get yourself to a meeting. And when you get yourself to a meeting, ask questions, take numbers, get as many numbers as you can, build a support network. Because, you know, at the end of the day, that everyone sleeps. So it's no use just having one person's number, because there will be a time when that person sleeps, and also you don't want to become codependent on them. You know, so you have a group of people that you could just pop a message to, and anyone can be there for you at any time, just to have a chat with, because you never know just how much that person might be needing you. My recovery today, mate, do you know what? It's like second nature now. I don't even think about it. There's the odd day, like, I might think, oh, yeah, I could murder a beer now, but do you know what? It's really, really is so short. You know, whereas before, if I thought about having a beer, even if it was 8 o'clock in the morning, nothing would stop me until I got that beer. You know, nothing. Literally down to the point of taking boxes of stuffing or food out of the cupboard and throwing it in the bin, as I've said to people before, and then telling my wife that we didn't have them so that I could go and buy them from a shop just to drink it on the way home. You know, for me, that was my issue. Was the biggest part was the lies, the deceit, and things like that. But now, you know, I am so honest about things with my wife. You know, literally, I don't feel the need to hide things. I talk to her about my recovery. I talk to her about where I'm at. I talk to her about, not about anything that someone tells me, because, you know, obviously that's someone else's issues. I would never do that. But, you know, I if I have a female reach out to me and is messaging me about recovery, my wife knows that I do. I'll help male or female. You know, whereas 6 months ago I couldn't be trusted to talk to a female, let alone try and help anyone. And do you know what? Again, that wasn't just down to when I was drinking or anything like that, because I can't say that. That was just the person I was. You know, I was a self-seeking, self-caring, lying, deceiving arsehole. You know, but since my recovery, I've started to realise the error of my ways, and, you know, and I don't like that person anymore. And that's the thing. No, I'm not now. You know, now I'm a different person. I know that, you know, that there is a reason why you don't need to be like that. You know, not everyone is an object, and just be that's the thing, you know, just get on with life, be nice. You know, I get my kids to when, like, my daughter come home and said that she's having problems with someone at school, you know, and I say to her, you know, well, my wife says it as well to her, you know, the serenity prayer. You know, we use it as a way of breaking down every single aspect of life. It doesn't need to just be about addiction. It can be about everything in life. My daughter was having problems being bullied. Okay, right, so God grant you the serenity to accept the things you cannot change. You can't change their actions towards you. You can't change the fact that they're a bully. You know, but what you can change is your own actions. Okay? Don't react. And the wisdom to know the difference. The difference is that you are a better person by not reacting. And do you know what? It really, really does make such a big difference in life. That one little prayer, you know, and you wouldn't think it, but very few words and very powerful meaning. And it really, really is. Just seriously, I think, you know, I am one of the lucky ones. You know, my wife's been to meetings with me. But do you know what? I don't think people understand the power of a meeting until you actually experience it. You know, Donna used to say to me all the time that it was a choice. You know, just don't pick up a drink. Don't do it. Go and get a can of Coke. Go and do this. Don't do that. You know, I know you're stressed, but don't deal with it by having a drink. You know, whereas now she comes to a meeting with me, and when she actually came to a meeting, she actually came out of the meeting and said, "Oh my God, Will, I feel that I've been going on at you, and I realise now that, you know, maybe it wasn't, you know, so one-sided or so black and white. It's even got to a point where she's actually now started sharing back to people at a meeting herself, you know, but, you know, she has to tell people that she's not an addict first, bless her, because she gets a little bit paranoid that people think that. Not that it is a bad thing, because do you know what, to be honest with you, yes, there is bad things about it, but do you know what, some of the nicest people I have ever met in my life are people that are in recovery. And you know, I've found a new family. I've found a group of friends that, do you know what, I can trust them 100%. You know, when I was drinking or I was using anything, I had friends that left me outside.
Chelsea?
They left me outside on the street while they went in to go and get another drink, and I ended up waking up in hospital beds. Whereas the people that I'm connected to today, I genuinely believe every single one of them, they're there for you no matter what. And that's the thing, is surrounding yourself by positive people, you know, getting up and just things that do help, you know, doing grat lists, and, you know, just writing things that you are grateful for, you know, because it reinstates a positivity into your mind. If you do a grat list in the morning, it reminds you the things that you're grateful for before you actually start your day. You know, but doing that morning prayer, grat list, and then doing a prayer before bed, doing an inventory should you need to. I do find that most of the time I don't do an inventory at night, because most of the time I tend to try and do a spot inventory straight away as soon as anything happens, because I know, you know, I am a hothead and I can react very quickly and get very stressed very quickly if I don't ask for guidance and go along the lines of what I need to do. But, you know, for me, recovery does work. You know, we do recover. Do I think that I am recovered? No, not yet. Will I be recovered? Who knows? You know, it might be something that I'm like for life, where I'm... But if I have to continuously just get up in the morning and have a 2-minute prayer, and then a 2-minute prayer of an evening, that's what it takes for me to stay within the triangle and, you know, be of service, do things at meetings. You know, it sounds quite selfish, I felt amazing after doing my first share at a meeting.
Chelsea?
It was absolutely fantastic, you know, to just sit there and just actually, I felt like I was having a lot of weight lifted by actually sitting there, and telling my whole story to people, and knowing that you're not going to be judged. You know, that was a big thing. You're not going to be judged, and don't ever feel that you will be judged when you go to any meetings, because you know what? Everyone there, I guarantee you, there's always going to be people that have been far worse than you have. You know, it is really, really good. I love recovery now. For me, it's one of those things that I just get on with daily and just see what I can actually do. You know, just being able to be the better person and be able to help people out. It makes you feel so much better in yourself. If, you know, any time that I do feel like having a drink, I've got literally my sponsor in my head saying to me, replay that video of last time you had a drink. And yeah, it's not a nice video. So, you know, I don't like the way that video ended. So I just won't do it. At the end of the day, we all know that addiction can kill, yeah? Well, I look at addiction, as I've already said, as an allergic reaction. Well, if you had a nut allergy that you know is going to kill you, would you sit there eating nuts? Or would you stay away from them? Because I know what I'd do. I would stay away from them. And that's exactly what I do with alcohol. And it's the only way to do it, you know. For me, cutting down doesn't work. Like I said, I tried that God knows how many times. I remember the times I used to say to my wife, I'm only going to drink tonight because the football's on. I'm going to watch the football, then I'm not going to drink tomorrow night. But then what happened tomorrow night was I'd have a shit day at work. And because I had a bad day at work, I needed to have a beer to relax. Then what happened was, I had a really good day at work the next night, you know, and I'd got a massive sale coming doing sales. And hi, Katie. No, do you know what? I used to at first. I used to think that struggling around people, the only time what I don't deal with now so much is, you know, when someone gets to that point and they're all slurry, breathing all over you, and they're repeating their words or whatever sort of thing.
Like how Katie gets your wife.
Like how one of my sister-in-laws gets my wife, yeah. No. Hi, Shannon. No, well, to be honest with you, no, I don't struggle with it. But if I do struggle, I just take myself away. You know, I'll come away for 5 minutes, even if I'm just go away for 5 minutes, have a bit of time to myself, possibly even just say a prayer, just get a bit of guidance. I can then go straight back into that exact same group. I could quite easily go and sit in the pub and not bother about it, you know. I see the way that people feel when they've had a good drink, and I see the way that they leave people's cars when they're sick, and I just feel like, do you know what, for me, I don't need that in my life anymore. I'm so happy not drinking and being able to, you know, get up in the morning, feeling fresh in the morning, not need, hi mum, you know, just being able to get up and be happy and, you know, be so much calmer with my kids. Obviously there is times, I'm not going to deny it, there is times that, you know, having a teenage daughter does test your sobriety. There's no doubt about it. But I know that as long as I stick within the triangle and stick to what I need to do, you know, I keep my unity, so I'm reaching out to people all the time, checking on my other fellows, making sure they're okay. Being of service, you know, that's a massive thing. I never ever understood it, but 100% being of service and getting involved with the meetings, you know, even if it's only just making cups of tea for people when they come into it. So you say that you can't stop drinking, Jodie. Listen, drop me a message. You know, I'm not saying that I'll be able to help, but you know what I will do is I'm happy to talk. You know, I'll give you some advice on ways that I looked at different things. You know, it's very, very different for everyone. You know, some people feel that they can't because they feel that they drink too much or they drink too excessive. But do you know what? I used to drink at 8 o'clock in the morning at times. I used to drink whenever I got a chance. My wife used to hate going out because every time she'd go out, she'd worry about coming back to how much I would have drunk. But do you know what? I genuinely believe now my wife could go away for a weekend and she wouldn't even worry about me having a drink. Because if anything, if there's been times, there was one time my wife went to go to a concert, and I did think about on the way back, oh God, wow, yeah, I could have a beer now, she'd never know. And luckily, one of my sister-in-laws decided that she'd left her phone, and her phone had her ticket on, so I had to go back to them at the concert, which took me away from the shops. Again, you know, could it be coincidence, or could that have been just... No, it probably was coincidence, actually, with that one. But no, do you know what? It was one of those things. There was something that made that happen. These things happen in recovery, and her leaving her phone in the car and me having to take it back took me away from the shop. And then I come back and I got on to TikTok, and I've done a couple of videos just for fun about recovery, and basically got myself out of self mode. So I stopped thinking about drinking, and then I felt so much better. You know, there is, without a doubt, there's help out there for anyone. You know, but you've got to want it. There's no point wanting it for someone else or wanting to give up for, like I said before, there's no point wanting to give up for other people in your life. You know, if you want to change, recovery is a selfish thing. You've got to do it for you. You know, but the one thing I can promise you, if you go through recovery and you give it your all and you get better and you get sober or you get clean, 100% you will see a better life. There's no doubt about it. You know, anyone who says to me that, you know, oh yeah, but you'll be boring, do you know what? Not a hope. I have so much more fun now than I ever did when I was sober. I sit there watching the boxing. I actually remember fights rather than being out of my nut and waking up in the morning thinking, not even waking up, but still struggling the next morning with addiction or drinking or just getting up and having a beer and just thinking, oh man, what happened last night? You know, I paid 30 quid to watch the boxing and I can't even remember any part of the fight. It was just a complete waste of time, money and life, you know, whereas now everything's so much clearer in life. You know, I'm now I didn't pass my driving test till I was 37, going on 38. Why? Because what would have been the point? They would have just took my licence off me. You know, and I know that 100% I would have lost my licence through drink driving. And the reason that I can honestly say that now is because, do you know what? When I did, there's nothing you can't say on here, you know, at the end of the day. But like I say, you're more than welcome to inbox me. And, you know, at the end of the day, it won't go any further. It's, you know, that's the thing about recovery is, you know, that it is anonymous for people. You know, I won't talk to anyone about anyone else's things. You know, it's not what you do. But I used to make to myself, you know, I drunk because of the fact I felt that my parents didn't want me, my dad didn't want me, my dad was violent. I felt that when I was younger, my mum didn't want me. You know, to be honest with you, it was just always an excuse for me. Like I said, you know, I drunk because of the fact I was ill. You know, there was no other way around it other than the fact that I was ill. In a way, you could look at it as some form of self-harm, you know, because you know at the end of the day it's not good. You know it's hurting you. You know that it could end up killing you, but you do it anyway. This is the thing about it, you know, I've had people that were in my family that have died because of it. You know, and it didn't stop me then. You know, I just kept going and going and going, and even having kids, having a wife, didn't stop me. Losing them didn't really stop me until the last time round. And, you know, I had to openly, like it says in the steps, you know, I had to openly admit that I was completely powerless. Once I realised that I was powerless over it, and I then moved on to handing it over to God as I understood him. Yep, no, I get that. You know, there's a lot of things out there that, you know, that people do. People get onto bad things. People use bad things. I've been there myself. I've used things that I would never be proud of. You know, I've done things that I'm definitely not proud of. But there's one thing that I am 100% proud of, and that is the fact that, you know, today I'm 110 days clean and sober and loving life. I'm at a point where, you know, I form a resentment with myself over the fact of the way that I used to treat people, because I'm actually realising to myself now that, you know, that now I know that, to be fair, it was all down to me. It was very, very much self-seeking, and I couldn't ever see the hurt that I was causing other people. I mean, how could I not see the hurt that I was causing my wife? You know, with all of the lies, the deceit, making her think she was going mad, you know, coming in and, you know, I chucked a bottle in our bottle bin outside the house and tried to make my missus believe that someone had walked up the garden path to put the bottle in the bottle bin rather than actually say it was me. You know, what kind of coward needed to tell that lie, you know, to make the woman feel that she was going mental? But, you know, this was it wasn't me. You know, this was the point. It didn't... I couldn't get it into my head why I was lying, and I was lying because of the fact I needed to hide and cover up for the addiction. I didn't want to lie about it. I didn't want to continue with it. But the problem was I couldn't see a way out and a way to stop. You know, yeah, I used to think that drinking made me feel good. To be fair, obviously I don't know yourself about how much you drink or anything like that, you know, but for me, I used to think, do you know what, I don't have a problem. You know, how can I have a problem? I get up every day, I go to work, I provide for my wife and kids, I do right by them, I do this, I just have a few beers after work to relax. But the thing is, it's a progressive illness. So you may only be drinking a couple of glasses of wine a day at the moment, you know, but that will progress. And it gets hold of you. And if you are like me, you'll realise that if you have one drink, it's too many. But 1,000 is never enough, you know. Once I have that first drink, that's it. My body will move heaven and earth to get another drink, and that I don't care who I lie to, whose trust I break, what I have to do. I know that if I have that drink, I will keep going until I fucking get another one. And it's that simple. So for me, I just make sure I don't have that first drink. And if I feel like having that first drink, I reach out to other people and I talk to them. And just being there for other people, that's the problem is, you know, it will never be enough. I dread to think what would happen if I was to have a drink now. Luckily, I don't feel like I want to. I don't, you know. But I know if I was to, it would be a major, major relapse. And do you know what? I'm proud of myself now. Even to the point of, you know, I don't think I've ever actually been proud of myself. Even with the fact of having my kids, getting married, you know, just never really been able to say, do you know what, I am proud of myself. You know, I remember we was writing in one of our children's books, you know, like the baby books, and I couldn't even sit there and be truthful in that because I was so embarrassed and didn't want my children to know what I was like before they were born. You know, and now I can say that, you know, I'm being the positive example, being the parent that I want to be. I'm showing my children the right way. You know, I don't hide my addiction from my kids because, you know, my kids are old enough now that even, you know, my youngest, Mason, at 6 years old, he knows that I used to drink a lot. But he also knows now that I don't drink at all. And, you know, the relationship that I've got with my children, it's so different now, the relationship with my children and with my wife. I mean, the relationship with my wife it's unbelievable. You know, we actually we're in the car together for 3 or 4 hours and we don't even put the radio on, you know, we actually sit there and communicate with each other. And do you know what, I don't remember the last time that we've done that before I got sober. And it really, really does change it, but the power of recovery is it doesn't just change you, it changes the people around you as well, because they see the work that you're putting in, and you see how much you change, and it does. Life does get better. It does get easier, but one thing is, it's not going to come to you for nothing. You've got to work for it, you know. Trying to white knuckle it and go it alone is very, very hard, and it's a very, very lonely thing to do. You know, just anyone who does struggle, you know, find yourself a meeting. If you can't find yourself a meeting, you know, just, I'm more than happy to help people try to find meetings. You know, cheers, Katie. It is very hard when you're on your own, very, very much. I will say that, Jodie. That used to be my real hardest time, like I said earlier on. You know, any time that if my wife went out anywhere, I was on my own, and I hated my own company. You know, so what could I do? The only thing I could do was drink and fuck my life up. But now, do you know what? When I'm on my own, I'll reach out to other fellows or other people in addiction and try and help people. And do you know what? Sometimes I actually cherish the peace of being on my own. It's beautiful. You know, being able to just relax and maybe do a bit of meditation if you want. You know, it really does help. It's one of the relaxing things. No worries. Thanks a lot for coming on, Katie. It means a lot. Just reach out to people when you're on your own. There's no reason anyone in this world should ever be on their own. You know, I believe that on TikTok alone, there's got to be somewhere over millions of people that are in recovery and that are recovering daily. You know, and it's very, very easy to find them. You know, you can just go onto the search videos and type in recovery. And, you know, it will bring up anyone that's in recovery, and you can click on them. A lot of people have their inboxes open. You know, my inbox is open. Anyone who's, you know, wants, you can inbox me. However, I do state that as of an evening, usually by 10 o'clock, 10:30, I do turn my phone off, because I've spent so much time of my life not being a part of my life with my missus, that once I go upstairs to the bedroom, I turn my phone off just to have some time just to chill together. Just to be able to have a bit of time watching telly, doing whatever, just chilling out. So I do turn my phone off. But if you message me, when I turn my phone back on, I guarantee you I will message back. Just do yourself a favour, everyone. Just reach out, because do you know what? If people don't reach out to me, it makes it very, very hard for me to help other people, which means I then fall into self mode. And if I fall into self mode, I start thinking about, I could have a drink, I could do this, or I could do that, and I start slipping backwards. You know, so it's other people reaching out and helping each other that makes it possible for us to all carry on. You know, literally, I've been going for nearly an hour now, so I am going to say, you know what, my inbox is open for anyone. You know, just drop me a message, albeit about whether drugs, alcohol, mental health. Do you know what? Even crime, you know, I'm happy to talk to people that are stuck in a life of crime and try and, you know... No, I appreciate that. You know, people don't like to talk about what's happening in their life. You know, that was been one of the biggest issues for myself and my wife. You know, we really, really struggled with communicating. However, you know, if you sit there and suffer alone, you will really, really fester on it, and it will just bubble up inside you. You know, but as I always say, you know, talking to someone that you don't know it can be very, very helpful, you know, especially someone that's not going to be judgmental. You know, to be perfectly honest with you, I've known people that have done every single drug there is, you know, and people that I love, people that have been a massive part of my life. Do you know what? I don't think any less of them. Okay, Crystal, listen, drop me a message. You know, I'm happy to be there to talk to you. You know, with mental health as well. You know, my wife is on this thread. I'll get her to pop the message in a minute. You know, she suffers herself with mental health. You know, and it helps to talk. You know, it really, really does. And I know it sounds like the old BT advert thing. It is really good to talk. Do you know what? Without talking, there's no way I'd be sat here now. Like I say, 110 days, feeling fantastic, feeling so much better in life. But talking really, really does help. But then also realise as well that when you do talk to someone else, you're not just doing it for you, because you're helping that person. And that is a massive, massive thing. Is, you know, if we all take ourselves out of self mode and think about someone else and help someone else, you'll soon realise that, do you know what, we can recover together. And it really is true. You can recover together. Recovery on your own is very, very hard. But on that note, listen, I am going to go now because I'm going to go and chill with the wife for a bit. Thank you all very, very much for allowing me to have your time this evening so that I can sit here and share with you about my strength and my hope of recovery. Like I say, it does work if you work them. Just remember that, you know. Get yourself to a meeting if you're struggling and get a sponsor 100%. But do yourself a favour, get as many numbers as you can and build yourself a recovery network, because do you know what? People in recovery are amazing. Alright, so good night everyone.